You know what time it is? It's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. Right. Peace. KP's Video News, and man, with a sad heart and a tear in my eye, man, I have to deliver this story here about one of my favorite actors, Chadwick Boseman, dead at age 43 years old from colon cancer. And wow, man, young brother out there, great actor, man, an amazing actor. And Chadwick Boseman, he starred in the movie Black Panther. He also played James Brown, which was another one of my favorite roles that he played. Those are my two favorites. Man, Wakanda forever, brother. Man, that hurts, man. Anyway, he has died at age 43 after a 4-year battle with colon cancer, and his family released a statement saying it was immeasurably grief that we confirmed the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016 and battled with it these last 4 years as it progressed to stage 4. And they continue that it was an honor of his career to bring T'Challa to life in Black Panther. He died in his home with his wife and his family by his side. Chadwick, who was most famously brought the first black Marvel superhero to life in Black Panther, along with the string of adventure movies, was no stranger to giving life to iconic roles. He played Jackie Robinson in the Jackie Robinson movie. He played James Brown in the Get On Up movie, and he played Thurgood Marshall in the movie Marshall. Recently, Chadwick had sparked concern amongst his fans as he appeared very thin in videos on social media, and this worldly never overshadowed the impactful words he wanted to share with the world about Jackie Robinson and the pandemic. Born in South Carolina, he also had an affinity for theater and wrote his first play in high school. He attended the famous HBCU, Howard University, and graduated with a bachelor's degree in fine arts. He started his career in writing and directing, but clearly he was meant to be on the other side of the camera. He took the world by storm in 2013 in the role of Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. And on playing the role, Chadwick said the story is relevant because we still stand on his shoulders. He started something. I would even say maybe he didn't even start it. It started before him, but he carried the torch, and he carried it alone for a period of time before other people could help him. Clearly, he forwarded the narrative of that, and we moved on to play one of the most influential roles of a generation in the portrayal of T'Challa, aka the Black Panther. And the impact he had on Hollywood was just too short. I mean, from 2013 to 2020, and he had another movie. He was slated to star in Black Panther 2, which was meant to be released in 2022. And I'm like, man, 43 years old, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, my brother. Rest in peace. And wow, man, that really hurts. And all you black men out there, men in general, go get tested, man. Get tested. You know, get your colonoscopies. And when you hit age 50, you know, you're supposed to go out and get that. Get checked, man. Get checked. I mean, why? What you got, you know, hey, go ahead and get checked, man. The earlier the better. And having said that, I'm going to move on to the next part of the story. And it's like, tired of broken promises, Sharpton says, as thousands marched on Washington, D.C. today, and I had no idea that this was going to even happen. I didn't know nothing about that, man. I wish I would have known. And thousands seeking criminal justice reform gathered at the National Mall today under the rallying cry, "Get your knee off our necks," a reference to the manner in which George Floyd was killed while in custody in May, and reminiscent of the 1963 March on Washington. We've come, like Dr. King came 57 years ago, to say we're tired of broken promises, Reverend Al Sharpton said at the march today, and there's a sense of urgency now. We need national legislation to deal with this. The Reverend said, now is the time for change. It's time we have a conversation with America. He continued, we need to have a conversation about your racism, your bigotry, about your hate, and about how you put your knee on our neck while we cry for our lives. We need a new conversation. And civil rights and social justice activists addressed the crowd and delivered speeches from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial demanding meaningful action and ending the systemic racism. Speakers also called for the U.S. Senate to pass H.R. 7120, known as the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The bill, approved by the House but not by the Senate, would address issues linked to policing practices and law enforcement accountability. Now let me see if I can bring that picture up right quick. See if I can bring that picture up so you can see this picture. And where did it go? It's an amazing picture. Where did that picture go? I don't see it now. What happened to my picture? I wanted to show that. Well, anyway, so Joyce Beatty, vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, echoed a similar sentiment. Go vote, Beatty added. Tell them to get their knees off our necks. Yolanda King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s granddaughter, also gave an impassioned speech about the challenges facing her generation. We are going to be the generation that dismantles systematic racism once and for all, now and forever, she said. We are going to be the generation that ends poverty here in the United States, the wealthiest nation on earth. She added, we stand and march for love, and we will fulfill my grandfather's dream. Martin Luther King III, who helped lead Friday's march, spoke about current injustices. We're marching to overcome what my father called a triple evils of poverty, racism, and violence, he added, listing challenges that disproportionately affect Black and Latino communities, including a coronavirus pandemic, unemployment, police brutality, and attacks on voting rights. He called on attendees to exercise their right to vote in the upcoming election. We must vigorously defend our right to vote because those rights were paid for by the blood of those lynched for seeking to exercise their constitutional rights, King said. And but because of what's going on, the oldest son of Martin Luther King Jr. said, the climate in this nation, more civil rights demonstrations we've seen in our nation and really throughout the world that are fully acknowledging that Black Lives Matter, when you realize the reasons why police brutality and misconduct is still occurring. It is beyond time for immediate action. We all saw some things begin to move a short period of time after, tragically, George Floyd was killed, but we haven't made the kind of steps that we need to, certainly not at a national level, he added. Family members of Black Americans who were victims of police brutality spoke out today at the March on Washington. Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old Black man chased and shot to death while jogging in Glenn County, Georgia, spoke. She said, I'm carrying a very broken heart, she said, but also a grateful heart that God chose my son, Ahmaud Arbery, to be a part of this most huge movement. I do believe that if we continue to stand and fight together, that we will get change, she added. And Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, walked up to the podium as the crowd chanted in call and response style, say her name, Breonna Taylor. Palmer began her speech by thanking supporters who have been fighting for justice for her daughter. What we need is change, and we're at the point where we can get that change, but we have to stand together. We have to vote, Palmer said. Vote. Vote with the big V. Vote. Get out there and get registered so you can vote. It's coming up in 2 months. Then the family members of George Floyd addressed the crowd. Philanese Floyd, his brother, was greeted by repeated George Floyd chants from the crowd. I wish George was here to see this right now. That's who I'm marching for, that Philanese Floyd said. I'm marching for George, for Breonna, for Ahmaud, for Jacob, for Pam Turner, for Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and anybody else who lost their lives. He was joined by his sister Bridget Floyd, who also spoke. She urged him to stand against injustices and to reflect on how future generations will look back on their actions today. We're here right now, and we have the power to make it happen, she said. My brother cannot be a voice today. We have to be that voice. We have to be the change, and we have to be his legacy. Jacob Blake Sr., the father of Jacob Blake, is laying in the hospital right now, who was shot in the back 7 times by the police in Kenosha, Wisconsin, spoke to the crowd as well. In the wake of the shooting that left his son paralyzed, Blake Sr. encouraged attendees to stand up against injustice. He also expressed his love for supporters. With his fist clenched and raised in the air, he chanted, "No justice," and the crowd responded, "No peace." Blake said that he attended Friday's march on Washington because he had a duty to show support. But we're going to stand up. Every black person in the United States is going to stand up. We're tired, he said, and we're not going to take it anymore. I asked everyone to stand up. No justice, no peace. Laterta Whitterman, Jacob Blake's sister, also addressed the crowd, calling for black people to unify. We will not be a footstool to oppression, Whitterman said. Black America, I hold you accountable. You must stand, you must fight, but not with violence and chaos, but with self-love. You got to stop killing each other. Stop this black-on-black crime nonsense. Stop it. And citing group economics, she called on black children to read, learn, grow, and live, and question everything. Black economics, we're talking about, this is a sidebar, I'm talking about, as I stated in my last video, about the what we really truly need to do is we need to have these blackout days. And blackout means stop shopping, don't do any shopping. So we got to go back to blackout Tuesdays. Make every Tuesday a blackout Tuesday. Do not shop on Tuesdays, and if you do, shop at black-owned businesses only. And stand up, black men, she added. Educate yourselves and protect the black family unit. The Get Your Knee Off Our Necks march comes toward the end of a summer of unrest sparked by more blacks being killed or severely injured by police. George Floyd, 46, died after Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck for more than 8 minutes. Chauvin was fired and now faces murder charges. Protesters have called for the arrest and prosecution of the Louisville, Kentucky officers involved in the March shooting of Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old EM2 who was shot at least 8 times when plainclothes officers fired blindly into her apartment as they executed a no-knock warrant. And then you had Blake, Jacob Blake, 29 years old, who was shot by police in Kenosha, Wisconsin on Sunday night. According to Blake's family, he was shot 7 times in the back and is now paralyzed from the waist down. The Department of Justice identified the officers Rustin Shesky. Due to COVID-19 concerns, all participants are required to wear a mask and to get their temperatures checked before entering the event, while buses and bringing participants in from outside of the region. The organizers are discouraging people living in the state of DC's mandatory quarantine list from traveling there for the march. We are tired of the mistreatment and the violence that we as black Americans have been subjected to for 400 years, Sharpton said in a statement before the event. Like those who marched before us, we are standing up and telling the police, telling lawmakers, telling the people and systems that have kept us down for years, get your knees off our necks. Sharpton announced the next in March, the march in June during his eulogy at Floyd's Minneapolis memorial service, and it occurs on the 57th anniversary of the original March on Washington, and in conjunction with the NAACP's virtual march on Washington. So I guess they did announce it, and I just didn't get that. I didn't get that memo, and a stroke of just like a slight news here. It's not the greatest news, but it's still something. As Jacob Blake was freed from his handcuffs in the hospital, they had him literally handcuffed. This is a man been shot in the back 7 times by cops that was handcuffed to his bed in the hospital, and the Kenosha police stated that Blake, they trying to claim, oh come on man, since Blake, a 29-year-old black man, was shot 7 times in the back by a white officer, local officials have not discussed many details, citing the ongoing investigation led by investigators. On Friday, the Police Association took issue with the public narrative, saying that he confronted officers, and so he can. Oh boy! So they're trying to make up some fairy tales here. Okay, for Blake's attorneys, the police union's narrative is merely a tactic to justify the officers' actions. I think it's a common strategy that police departments use in these type of circumstances. It's always trying to justify murder for misdemeanors. And so anyway, he was Wisconsin Department of Justice Division of Criminal Investigation, which is leading the shooting investigation, has said that that it was this investigation is ongoing, and the police union allegations are overblown that Blake's attorney stated. But anyway, like I said before, Blake had been handcuffed, literally, who was paralyzed from the waist down. Paralyzed from the waist down, was shackled, and then, wow. So we have learned today that the warrants for Jacob Blake were vacated, although the charges against him were still pending. Fortunately, a man who was paralyzed and fighting for his life after being shot 7 times in the back will no longer have to deal with the pain of having his ankles and wrists shackled at the traumatic stress of being under armed guard, Blake's attorney said in a statement. And family members have said the sight of him being tethered to the bed at a hospital was heartbreaking. And why do you have to have that cold steel on his son's ankle, as Jacob Blake Sr. asked this morning before he left to go to the meeting in Washington, D.C. And so the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department stated that Blake was handcuffed to the bed because he had felony warrants for his arrest and for crimes that he had committed prior to the shooting incident, and said anyone with this classification level that we are guarding in the hospital will be treated. But in response to that statement from the sheriff, Blake's uncle, Justin Blake, stated it shows how little class and compassion the sheriff has. And at the time of Sunday's violent encounter, Blake had a warrant out for his arrest in connection with a domestic abuse call earlier this year, and the charges against him remain, but they dropped the warrant. And when they dropped the warrant, they basically removed the shackles from his legs and his arms, man. It's like, I mean, how inhumane can you be, man? The guy, where is he supposed to go? He's paralyzed. He's paralyzed from the waist down. What's he gonna do? Crawl out the hospital? Come on, man. This is stupidity. Straight up stupidity. But it's time for a change, people. Whatever you do, you have got to get ready. You got to vote. You have got to vote. You got to vote. I can't say it enough. It's time to vote. You got to get Trump out of there. You got to get Mitch McConnell out of there. You got to get Lindsey Graham out of there. You got to get Devin Nunes out of there. You got to get all of those stupid people out that have been doing everything. A lot of these rules and regulations that have been sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk in the Senate that he refuses to bring up. Voters' Right Act, they want trying to modify. Also, the George Floyd Act that they want to try to get to the floor. The House has approved both of these. The Voters' Right Initiative they approved 2 years ago, and Mitch McConnell still has not brought that to the floor to make sure that everybody will have the right to vote. So these things can be handled, but you got to vote, man. You have got to vote. I can't state it enough.
KPVIDEONEWS, y'all. It's time for what? KPVIDEONEWS, y'all.
It's time for what?
KPVIDEONEWS, y'all.
Peace.